Good afternoon, everybody. I am Stephen Ruderman, joined here by the Giants beat writer you're still with the San Jose Mercury News,
Yes, sir.
Kerry Crowley.
How are you, Stephen?
Could be better, could be worse. That's 2021. Better than last year, but hoping next year will be even better.
That's all of us, sir.
I'm not going to lie, though. 2021 hasn't been the greatest year ever, but a hell of a lot better than last year. Now, speaking of which, the Press Box Experience has definitely been different these last 2 years than in years past. Have you gotten used to the Press Box Experience, and what do you think of all of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, one of the most important things you can do in any field, but specifically in journalism and sports reporting, is being adaptable and making the most of your surroundings, making the most of the environment, and playing within the rules, sometimes stretching the rules to try to get an advantage. But I think that I've gotten used to it. And look, we're beginning to start to go back to normal, to start to go back to what I saw in the press box in 2017, 18, and 19. We're back on the field doing in-person interviews, so that's all good. And I do think that readers and anyone who follows the sport of baseball will have a much better sense of the sport over the next few months than they've had over the last few months, because we will have greater access.
Yeah, you guys, I think as of yesterday, are allowed back on the field, though I believe the dugout and the clubhouse are still off limits. Do you think that the clubhouse and the dugouts could be accessible again before year's end?
I think that the dugout will, in part because it's right next to the field, and I think that some people are just going to happen their way into the dugout and take that territory back. The clubhouse, I'm not as confident in, but we've got a great team at the BBWA working on access and making sure that that reporters who've been in the clubhouse before can get back in there again. And that's well above where I rank. And so I tip my cap to those people for working on it and for taking that on a daily basis, because without them, we wouldn't have the type of access and coverage that we have today. So I'm very grateful and appreciative for them.
No, as I was saying, everything's better than it was in 2020. What was the access last year? I think it was 3 tiers. The first was like the players and uniform personnel. I think the second was like the middlemen, like Matt Chisholm and the other media relations people. And then tier 3 was you guys. Just can you give me a general overview of what the press box experience was like last year?
It was certainly different. And I think that, the story that I tell when it comes to talking about baseball and covering games in 2020, I feel extremely fortunate. I think there were fewer than 1,000 people in the country that got to go to a stadium on a daily basis and watch baseball. And I was one of them. But it was weird because you would walk into Oracle Park and there would be ushers there would be security personnel, and they were there for no one other than us, maybe the writers. It was interesting to see, like, there was, obviously a much smaller staff, but you would go through the security entrance and you would get in the ballpark, and all of a sudden you're in this cavernous place where you're used to 30 to 40,000 people, and walking out the opposite direction, dodging fans on the way to try to get to the clubhouse for interviews. And all of a sudden it's just like 12 to 15 people watching a baseball game together. And you have to kind of keep your voice down in the press box, because you can only assume that the people on the field can hear you. If they can hear the broadcasters above you calling the game, then they can probably hear your commentary during the game. So it was really unique, really bizarre, and something I am very grateful I hope to never experience again. And having fans back has just been such a joy, not just for the players, but for the writers too. I think we become accustomed to, sensing the momentum of the crowd and kind of writing off of some of the adrenaline that they bring to the park on a daily basis.
Speaking of crowds, what was it like in person to hear the fake crowd noise? Because hearing it on TV, it was just like, okay, this is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was wrong. It was terrible. There's no way around it. Like, Major League Baseball tried to pipe in fake crowd noise, and I mean, it was weird. Like, there would be times where there would be a single and there would be this huge cheer from the crowd, and then the fake crowd, and then there would be a home run, and it would like take a few seconds, and then you'd hear a little bit, and then it would go away, and you're like, well, this kind of isn't really balanced right now. But I always thought that was funny, kind of gauging what sound was pressed for the occasion. And I'm very, very glad that has also disappeared from the game.
Because that's what I was going to mention was the delay. It'd be like, to imitate Kuiper. Here's the pitch. High, deep, out of here.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kuiper, obviously the news last week was pretty hard to take. Do you know how Kuiper is doing, or probably just know as much as everyone else does?
Yeah, we haven't gotten any updates lately, but I do think that, like you said, the news was really hard on everyone. Not just because, for me personally, I know Duane and he's been so kind to me, and I'm so gracious for all the time that he spent helping me improve throughout my career, and just the time he spent getting to know me on a personal basis. But I think that anyone who grew up in the Bay Area, who grew up watching Giants baseball, feels like Duane Kuiper is a part of their family, because baseball is very different than basketball or football. There's 162 games, and those broadcasters are in your house. If you're a diehard fan, if you consume the Giants on a daily basis, you watch him on a daily basis. You listen to him. I learned the sport through listening to Duane Kuiper and Mike Krukow. And so anytime news like that comes out, obviously it's going to be disappointing and hard to take. But I think with Duane Kuiper, it cuts a little different and hits a little deeper, because he is a fabric of the Bay Area sports community, and in a Bay Area sports landscape where we have so many heroes, idols, legends, Duane Kuiper is right there with all of them. And so I just I hope for the best for him. I'm wishing the best for him and his family, and all of those who are really close to him, because we cannot wait to hear from Duane Kuiper again.
I'm going to be 27 next month, and I've gone through a lot of changes in my life, but that one consistent year in and year out has been listening to Duane, Mike, and John. And last year, which was so horrible, especially before there was any baseball, the first Giants home run, we hear "Bye Bye Baby" played before they go to the commercial. And it's a fun song to listen to once in a blue moon. But it was like, I actually got choked up listening to that song, because it's like, okay, finally here in 2020, some resemblance of something I've been used to going through my whole life. And Duane has said that he wants to go into his 80s, and I want Duane, Mike, and John around as possible. They're the people who connect me to my early childhood, and I can't afford to lose any one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as long as they want to do it, the Giants will be happy to have them do it, because I think that so many people feel the way that you do, that they have brought so much joy into your life, and they're one of a kind, each on their own way, but together they are remarkable. And all four of the Giants broadcasters who are with the team on a regular basis do such an outstanding job. And I think that Giants fans, if you look around the country, realize that it is a very special scenario here in San Francisco, where you've got just elite broadcasters across the board.
In Kuiper, I haven't been in a press box since 2015, but Kuiper was great to me too. And I like about Kuiper is that he's very authentic. What you see is what you get from him. He's not going to BS you. He will be a character. He is quite a character when you meet him in person in the clubhouse or in the press box, and he's like me, really unfiltered. It was just like, man, this guy's a whole lot of fun. And yeah. I was really scared in 2015. I covered a series at Coors Field in May, and actually, he and Mike let me sit with them because I knew them from spring training, and it was just a comfort thing, and they were real great to me, and something I will always appreciate. We got about 6 minutes left. What I really want to ask you though about, Kerry, is the 2021 Giants and what you think of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that surprise is the right word now that we're 66 games into the season, but I do think that based on our expectations back in spring training, they certainly qualify as a surprise. At this point, what they've accomplished, you're starting to expect. Once they got through the month of April with a 16-10 record, people thought, okay, they beat up on a soft schedule, they'll regress, they'll come back. Didn't happen in the month of May. They went 18-10, took care of the Padres, proved that they could hang against the Dodgers after Mike Tauchman made his big catch in Dodger Stadium. And then they beat the Cubs at the beginning of June. They took 3 of 4 from Chicago. And I think that when you look at this Giants team, it's the quality of wins against the upper caliber teams in the National League that really stands out to me. And so I just think that they've proven that not only they can be in the race all season long, but I now expect them to be in the race. I've completely adjusted my expectations, and I think that their depth has shown through. And I think that the expectations from the fan base have certainly been adjusted already, and in that anything short of a playoff appearance would be a disappointment in San Francisco.
Very much so, because I actually did predict back in spring training. I predicted they'd win 83 to 86 games and get the second wild card. And I'm still sticking to my second wild card prediction. But the reason I predicted it, because we've seen this group of guys in 19 and again last year in 20 go on big runs and over a certain amount of time. And the way last season ended, final day of the year, and then losing, of course, 4 of our final 5, 3 in a row in our final 3, that I kind of knew that this team had something to prove. And I felt like there was going to be a chip on their shoulder after the way last season ended, and that when the bell rings for the new season, that something really cool could happen.
Yeah. I didn't have the same type of expectations. I think at the beginning of the year in spring training, I was thinking 82 and 80 or 80 and 82, simply because I didn't think that they had the talent at the top of the roster to hang with the Dodgers and the Padres. I thought that they would beat up on teams like the Rockies and the D-backs, and I thought that they could hold their own against the rest of the National League. There were not too many teams, heading into 2021 that really stood out to me as, okay, this is a guaranteed lock for the playoffs. But the Dodgers and Padres really did, and I think that maybe they will hit their stride at some point, and maybe they will take off and create some separation from the Giants. But I don't know that that's likely to be the case anymore. I think that the Giants' depth is an asset, and I think that in a season where injuries are rampant across the major leagues, having a deep 40-man roster has served the Giants better than the Padres, who have all the stars at the top, and the Dodgers, who don't quite have the same level of depth that they did last year and the year before.
Speaking of which, I was talking to my friend Steven Risotto. You know him. Mm-hmm. Did an interview with him not too recently, and the Giants are going to have a lot of tough decisions to make. Darren Ruff's coming back soon. Dickerson's coming back soon. I mean, Tommy La Stella is going to come back at some point in the next month or two. Are there any players, guys like Dubon and others, who have been great on the team, but you could see being just the unfortunate odd man out?
So this is a question that I used to answer all the time, and it's a question that, it's always a puzzle with the Major League roster. You're always trying to predict ahead of time who's coming back, who's going down, what the roster moves will be. It's not worth it in 2021 anymore, because they've always had a way of working themselves out. As soon as someone's ready, someone else isn't. As soon as someone goes down, someone else is ready to come back. And so it's just kind of worked out that way, that it's a fool's errand in predicting what's going to happen with the Major League roster, because on a near daily basis, we're seeing changes in terms of the status of health, in terms of durability for certain players. And there are things going on behind the scenes that we may not even know about yet. So I just think that, when Tommy La Stella is ready to come off on the IL on July 2nd, the Giants will have a place for him, and I'm not too worried about that.
Now, do you think with the right moves, and I'm talking Bart and Ramos coming up and making a contribution, which I think is certainly possible, a la Posey 2010, and some bullpen help, that this team could go all the way?
All the way? I don't know. I mean, once you get into the postseason, it's anyone's game. I mean, the Giants proved that in 2010, 2012, and 2014. I certainly think that they have a postseason caliber roster, but I think that the playoffs are such an adventure and such a roller coaster that I would never rule anything out, and I would never make a prediction at the beginning to say, okay, this team is the clear favorite. I as a betting man, I would put my money on them. I don't bet, and so I'm fortunate in that regard that I wouldn't have to make that call. But yeah, I mean, I think they're a playoff caliber team, and once you enter the tournament, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Well, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. Kerry Crowley, San Jose Mercury News Giants beat writer since 2018. Kerry, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Stephen. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.